Hello everybody, this is Llodg, and today I wanted to talk about my top 5 favorite Halo books. Over the past few years, I've gotten to read a bunch of Halo books. Now I haven't read all of them, so there technically could be one or two that I will eventually like more than these, but I don't really see that happening because I love these 5 books so much. And in this list, I'm only going to include one book per author, because if I didn't, I could easily see this list containing just 2 authors, and that's not a fun list. So even if a Halo author has written a bunch of great books, I'll only choose one of those to put on this list. And for my number 5 pick, I'm going to pick Silent Storm by Troy Denning. This is the first book in his Master Chief trilogy, and I'll put trilogy in quotation marks, because I don't really think it's much of a trilogy, and that's because even though this book sets up a lot of plot lines, in the next Master Chief storybook kind of picks off where this book left off for the most part. There's a lot of those stories that don't get told in that second book. They get told in a bunch of other books that don't include the Master Chief. And I think that's fine, but having it be a part of a Master Chief trilogy, I don't think works as well. But I can't fault Silent Storm for that issue, because I can more blame Oblivion, and all the rest of the books Troy Denning wrote. But yeah, Silent Storm I think is a pretty good book. It shows us some of the operations the Master Chief and Spartans did before the Fall of Reach, and I always think that's really cool. The cover I think looks really cool because I love the proto Mjolnir armor. You get a lot of Sergeant Johnson in this book, and I'll always love a book for including Sergeant Johnson. And yeah, overall I think this is just a good book. Troy Denning isn't my favorite Halo author, but he does the job well enough. And if you're wanting a good Halo book to read that doesn't really include any of the rest of the Halo story, I think this is a great first one. I think this is a great one to read. It just throws you into the Covenant War, and I think it's pretty fun. It even gives you a bit more of a perspective of the insurrectionists, which I think is a really cool and honestly underrated part of Halo's lore. Of course I love the Covenant, but I think it's cool to see the more humans versus humans. And number 4, Cryptum by Greg Bear. Honestly, for Greg Bear's books, I was really torn between this one and Silentium. Both of them, in my opinion, are really good, and they are a bit different in why I like them. But Cryptum I think is really interesting. You get thrown into this ancient world with Forerunners, ancient humans. I think it's really cool to see how this race that we've only heard about in the games, we haven't even seen. I think this book is really the first time we really get a good understanding, because I think it came out before Halo 4, but I can't remember exactly. But it's cool to see how these Forerunners interacted with ancient humanity, and how the outcome of the war set up for all this other stuff. And Born Stellar is such a good main character. I really like him. His motives aren't I'm a hero, you know? It is him more trying to find himself and what his place is. I wish we got more books in this time frame, and of course the Forerunner trilogy kind of bookends it to where we can't have anything after that. But I really would like to see more of this time period. I don't know if we'll ever get that. But yeah, Greg Bear's trilogy is really good, but I don't really care for Primordium all that much. It's easily the weakest in the trilogy for me, but Cryptum is really good, and one of my favorites. Number 3, Epitaph by Kelly Gay. This is another Halo author that I had a hard time choosing a favorite book from. Honestly, all of Kelly Gay's books are really good. She was one of the first Halo authors that I started to read when I got back into reading books. And it's really surprising because those books aren't really the normal Halo stuff you read. It's not about Master Chief, it's not really about Spartans. It's about regular people. And while Epitaph is about the Didact, I think you can clearly see how good of a writer Kelly Gay is. But bridging off of that for her latest book, Epitaph, Kelly Gay honestly knocked it out of the park with this book. She did a wonderful job writing it, and I think part of why I loved it so much is because I love the Forerunner trilogy a lot. And you can clearly tell that Kelly Gay did her homework. She read the Forerunner trilogy, she played the games. To where you know that she saw some of these characters and were okay, we're going to bring this guy back, we're going to do this part. It's a great follow through for some of those previous works. There's a lot of great characters I think you could pretty much throw out after Greg Bear's books, but Kelly Gay was able to bring them back in an interesting way, and is really engaging, that I wanted to read a lot more. But like those first books that Kelly Gay wrote I talked about, this isn't necessarily the normal Halo book you're going to read where it's about Spartans fighting aliens. But I think that's why I like this book so much. It's a bit different, and Kelly Gay has written books about Spartans, and I think that book, Rubicon Protocol, is really good. But Epitaph is just, I don't know, it's an experience for me to where I really do want to reread it, and see if I can catch anything this time that I did the last time. I think it's really interesting. It might be the most heartfelt book I've read out of the Halo series. The ending, I just loved. I love how the characters, like, grow in this book. The Didact's already one of my favorite characters, and this book just kind of, like, solidified that so well. I'm a little sad I can't rank this higher, because I genuinely love Epitaph so much. And I wish we could get, like, a second book if this book didn't wrap up so well. But on to my number 2, Contact Harvest by Joseph Staten. Joseph Staten is another Halo author that I think every book he's written is really good, though unlike Kelly Gay, he hasn't written many Halo books. He's written one full book and like one novella, and it's really disappointing to me because I would love to hear more stories from him. But Contact Harvest is really good. It's a Sergeant Johnson story, so I'm already gonna really love it. But it's about the beginning of the Human Covenant War and the fall of Harvest. And oh my gosh, it's so good. This is probably Johnson's best book, and that's mostly because he's like the main character of most of it. So you get a lot of him and like his perspective, which I really appreciate. But Harvest in general is just such a cool place and like event to happen. You get to see the Covenant meet up with the humans for the first time, which I think is really cool. And you get to kind of like learn about why certain stuff happens. Because while this is a Johnson book, it's also a Prophet of Truth book. And the beginning of the 9th Age of Reclamation. It's just all so good. You get Tartarus in this book, and I wish Tartarus was like a more prominent character. He just can't be. It's hard to like not say too much about this book without like spoiling every little thing. This was one of the first Halo books I read when I was getting back into reading, and it captured my imagination so much to where I read through it all so fast. It's one of the longer Halo books. It's not like 800 pages or anything, but I feel like Joseph Staten writes it in a way to where it goes by pretty fast. It doesn't really feel like there's any like dead air during it. And I really appreciate that. But yeah, I wish Joseph Staten would come back and write like one more Halo book. He did for the Shipmaster, and like, I don't know, I'd like to just hear more of his like perspective with Halo, because I think he is one of Halo's best writers, especially since he worked on the games. Contact Harvest is a really good book, and if you really do want to get into Halo books, this is one I just wholeheartedly recommend, because it's one of the first that happens in the modern Halo age. But now onto my favorite book. And this is another one that was really hard to choose from a great author, but I decided to go with First Strike by Eric Nyland. Eric Nyland was obviously going to get this first spot. All 3 of his books he's written I think are really good, but First Strike I think just has something special with it. It's been the latest Halo book I've reread. I read it back when I was in like middle school, but I didn't remember too much, so when I recently reread it, I pretty much experienced it for the first time. But it was really good. It tackles what happens literally right after Halo CE and the fall of Reach, which I think is 2 perfect time periods to like experience within Halo in a book. Because it's like, oh, how did Master Chief get where he was from Halo CE to Halo 2? Well, this book pretty much explains it. But yeah, this is also another book with Sergeant Johnson, so of course it's going to be good. He kind of takes like a backseat in this book compared to some of the other books I've mentioned, but he's still really good. I love all the humans in this book. They're good, especially like all like the little group that Master Chief has at the beginning. But this book also really tells the story of the Fall of Reach. And one of the reasons I didn't put Fall of Reach in this list is because the Fall of Reach doesn't really cover the Fall of Reach. But First Strike actually shows you those Spartans that did go onto the planet. It really highlights Fred as an amazing character, and I wish we got to see more of him. But yeah, all the sections on Reach are really fun. Though it kind of does mess with Halo Reach's story a little bit, though you can just like hand wave it, I think. But it is a little weird. I like seeing just more of Blue Team and the rest of the Spartans that we don't really see in other media. There is like one issue I have with this book, and it's like the timeline issue, because the Pillar of Autumn leaves Reach like at the end of August and reappears at Alpha Halo on like September 19th. But I think there must have been some timeline where the Master Chief gets back to Earth like way too early. And it's because there's like a Forerunner artifact on Reach that like manipulates time somehow. When the Master Chief goes back to kind of like check if anyone's alive on Reach, that artifact kind of like mended time a little bit to where it's still like the beginning of September and like Dr. Halsey and the Spartans are saved. But it's kind of weird, and like personally I think it's a little unneeded, but I'm sure some Halo lore people will be like, oh, it was totally needed to fix the timeline issue. But I didn't even really know there was a timeline issue until I read this book. This book is like my favorite book. It actually kind of had me tearing up with like tears of joy, and that does not happen with books. Just like the way that it was written, what they showed in the book, like how it related to Halo CE and Halo 2, I just thought were really cool. But I could totally see why you'd want to put like The Fall of Reach or even Ghost of Onyx on this list. But yeah, those were my top 5 Halo books. I don't really see that list changing unless I read a book from a different author or something where I'm like, oh, this is clearly better. But I'd love to hear what your favorite Halo books are, especially if it's from an author that's not on this list. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, have a good day, and goodbye.